Hello and welcome to episode 306 of Anywhere But Here. I'm Ant, and as Tom has been holding down the fort for the last couple of months and he's been living the life of a rock star, we thought we'd give him the day off. So this episode I am joined by an old friend of the podcast, Andrew Bartlett. He graciously agreed to step in at the last minute because me being me, I only asked him yesterday. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so by visiting our website abhpod@gmail.com, and somewhere on there you'll find an Amazon banner. If you click that Amazon banner, it will take you to the UK version of Amazon, amazon.co.uk, and you can do your shopping. It doesn't change your experience at all. It doesn't cost you any more. All it does is let Amazon know that we directed you there, and anything you spend will get 5% of that. So we're taking money out of Amazon's pocket, essentially. If you don't like to use Amazon but you still want to support us, you can do so by visiting our Patreon. There is a banner right next to the Amazon banner for our Patreon. On there you will get exclusive after the podcasts. You'll get spoiler casts when we record them rather than having to wait for them to go out on our main feed. We also do a video portion. We record ourselves on Zoom. We post the video up there as well. And any video content we do for the YouTube, you will get that early over there as well. You can find us on the usual social media platforms, facebook.com/abhpod, Twitter @abhpod. We also have a YouTube channel where if we ever do any video content, that's where you can find it. We also have the audio versions of these podcasts as well. I don't know if people listen to podcasts on YouTube, but that's where they are. You can also contact us by email, abhpod@gmail.com. On this episode, as I said, we're joined by Andrew Bartlett. We basically do a bit of a catch-up, seeing as I haven't been around. We talk about things we've been watching on Netflix. We talk about films and what films mean to us. It's a general chinwag. I really enjoyed this one, actually, and I feel like you will do too. But first, let me kind of explain why I haven't been on the podcast for a little while. Enjoy. She says a different thing now. I'm sure she said this recording has. It used to be this recording has started, and now it's recording in progress. Anyway, strange. Anyway,
I got a notification, a little pop up that said, a lot of words, and it's too early for that. But there were two buttons. It was like leave meeting or got it, and I was just like, well, I guess I got it. Yeah. Oh, does it give you an option? Does it say this person has recording this meeting? Are you sure you want to stay?
Yeah,
because the lady screamed at me recording in progress, and then it gave me a nice little pop up that's just like, what do you want to do about it?
Well, I was okay with it until you shouted at me.
Actually, I was fine with it, and then you yelled at me. So I don't like your attitude. I'm going to leave. Sorry, Aunt. I don't like the lady's attitude.
I'm on my own,
recorded lady's attitude.
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've done this. So it's been. I was trying to figure it out while I was sort of at the gym. It's been like a couple of months since I've recorded. I don't know what happened. Things just happened, and it's just like we couldn't record. And Tom did say today that he could have joined today, but he's living that rock star lifestyle now.
Oh, so yeah.
he's been gigging and touring. So and he held the fort for the last couple of months while I haven't been recording. So I guess he's earned a day off. I guess he's earned a day off the podcast. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was really odd. It's my how we always joke we've got bad communication and stuff like that. Like it just the first one I think that we missed. I've lost my headphones. The first one that we missed was because I think Tom, I can't remember if it was me or Tom that couldn't record on the normal day. So he was like, okay, I'm available these days. Just let me know. And I was like, I will do it. I'll get straight on that. And I didn't. So it kind of, yeah. And then I think the recording after that, I was kind of like, all right, cool. So I messaged Tom, I think on the Saturday night, and I was like, yeah, we're still good for recording tomorrow. And he's like, oh no, it was even that morning. I'd set up for recording that morning. I was like, yeah, so, we're good to record today. I'm all set up. He goes, well, I haven't heard from you since I told you my availability. And, that was like a month. I was like, so he said, so I've put stuff out and put stuff in place. I was like, fair enough. I deserve that. And then because he had so much stuff pre-recorded, because I think he put out a ton of stuff on the Patreon because we hadn't done anything for a while. So he put a few of those out on the main feed. So he's like, "Yep, no, cool. We'll take a couple of weeks off. We'll just put this stuff out, and then if you can take this one that we're recording today, that'd be great." I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." So then I messaged Andrew yesterday, doing my usual. That's what I do.
Well, I mean, it's completely understandable. I knew. Yeah. With first of all, with the time of the year that it is, and then with everything that's been going on these past 2 years, you got to take every opportunity that you can. Yeah. If life happens and it's continuing to happen, and so I mean, I get it. Were I someone who went out and did stuff, I would be out doing stuff. I would be taking that opportunity. But nope, born and bred introvert. So
I totally am an introvert, and most of the stuff that I'm doing is at home. So I'm doing my university course. I've also started going to the gym. Like, we're doing band practices again. I go climbing. Like, there's just so much stuff that I do, and the podcast as well. And it's just like it just sort of piles on. I think the thing is, it was like when this all came to a head and I wasn't sort of recording, I was finishing my first year. So I'm doing a university. I'm not sure how the degrees work, like your colleges work in the States, but generally in the UK, we do bachelor's degrees, which is like a three-year course for a majority of the degrees. Because I'm doing it part-time, you're doing half the amount of study each year. Mm-hmm. So I've done my first year, which is 2 years, but it's the first level. So I finished that and then immediately started my next one, like the first course of my second level. And I think within 4 weeks, it was like, you need to now produce a video assignment. So I had to make a video for myself. So it's just all this stuff just piling on and piling on and piling. So yeah, I was just like, I can't do anything. I can't function. And then because stuff's opening up again and we're going out, so I'm socializing, being the introvert who socializes, I then get home and I just curl up and I'm like,
it gets very draining.
Yeah. So there's all that. Also because of this thing that happened, like with the communication sort of, it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's gone. Anyway, it sort of started this process when I was like, I'm going to call my doctor and finally investigate this potential ADHD issue. So I've now been, the doctor's going to refer me to a specialist for diagnosis. Oh, okay. So yeah, there's all that as well on top of it. So I've got all that in my head and it's just, everything's a blur at the minute, but yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. Huge amount of stuff. It's crazy, but we're getting back to normality.
That's a good thing. And because you got to think about it. You've got about a year and a half's worth of stuff that you didn't get to do. And so now it's just like, let's do everything. And
I mean, we've already been to 2-3 West End shows and a concert. And it's just,
that's going to be my next year. My friend, she's already got tickets to see a couple different things. So we're slated to, crossing fingers, see Letterkenny in February. And then, and then for my birthday, we're going to go see the group AJR in concert. And so, just a couple things.
We've got, I think, 2 concerts booked for next year already. 2? 3. Okay, 3.
Yeah.
Not McFly again?
I was about to ask him if one of them was McFly.
No, it's not McFly. Sorry. Sigrid, yeah. Going to see Sigrid. Green Day. Yeah. That's the tour we were supposed to see last year, isn't it? The year before. Okay, 2 years ago. Yeah, it's the Green Day, Weezer, Fall Out Boy. It's a really, it's going to be great. And then we've got Billie Eilish as well, which will be interesting. Yeah. Sorry? Oh, and the Queen Symphonic Orchestra. So four concerts.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so 4 concerts. Yeah. So Billie Eilish tickets, it's for Chloe for her birthday, which isn't until April, her birthday. So we're sitting here and like she's constantly going, I really want to see Billie. I want to see when we're like, yeah, but we can't. Oh. Even though we've got tickets sat there, like. But yeah, no, that would be really good.
Keep dreaming.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, do you know how expensive they are? We're never going to get those tickets.
God, I love those surprises where you've already broken their heart.
Yeah, the surprises where they're already disappointed and they think it's not going to happen, and there's no possible way it's going to happen. And you go, haha, you've been crying for the last 8 months, but.
Oh yeah, those are great. My favorite story of one of those is
just when crush their souls before bringing them back up. It makes you seem that much better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when because you have such a floor to bring them up from.
Yeah, that's it.
And because it reminds me of when my grandmother back in 2013, she got into her car accident, and she was in a rehabilitation facility at Christmas at that time because her accident was in November. And normally during the holiday season, my aunt would come into town, and she was all about Christmas. And so that year, the idea was, well, since Grandma's not at home, there's really no reason to set up the tree. And normally I would be the one setting up the tree and all that. And so I'm like, well, I just don't have time because I'm traveling back and forth from home to work to the hospital to work to home to the hospital to and any kind of variation of that. So I decided, you know what? It's already been a weird year as it is. Let me just try to have some semblance of normalcy. So out of the goodness of my own heart, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and set up the tree. But I didn't tell my aunt. And so it was one of those things where she came into town, we picked her up from the airport, and then immediately took her to the facility so that she could spend some time with my grandma before we took her back to my grandma's house, which is where she was going to be staying. And so, the entire time it was like, I'm really sorry we didn't get to do anything, special, for the tree or anything. Instead, I had set up like a little kind of mini tree in my grandmother's room, just to kind of put some sort of festive whatever into the room. So I'm just like, that's going to be it. So my mom and I had this whole scheme where I would take my aunt to the store first so that she could pick up some provisions, snacks and whatnot while she was at my grandma's house because it had been a couple months.
No food.
No food. So while I was taking my aunt to the store, my mom in her car had gone ahead to my grandma's house, had plugged the tree in, and was waiting when we got back to my grandma's house. And so we go in, the light's on in my grandma's kitchen, and then the doorway to the living room is through the kitchen. So my aunt walks into the room, sees my mom sitting in the dark, and is like, why are you sitting in the dark? And then it took her like a second to notice this brightly lit tree in the corner of the room. And as soon as she saw it, she was just immediately like, like she was so struck with emotion. I was just like, yes.
The best.
Try.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. It was kind of like, but when me and Liz got married, it was the wedding speech, and it's kind of like, right, have I done enough? Have I done enough to make people cry? So reading, like as I'm reading the speech, looking, watching, making sure people are crying at the right point and stuff. That's when you know.
You got to scope it out and make sure everyone has their good cry, and it's like you've got this mental checklist. It's like, has Uncle Larry cried yet?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
I haven't got that. I haven't got to that part of the speech yet. Yeah.
Okay, what makes him cry? The 1986 Chicago Bears lineup. Okay, I need to make sure that somehow I segue into that. Go Bears! Yeah, all right, Larry, I got you.
Yeah, he's crying. Good, excellent. But they are good surprises, though, aren't they? I mean, that used to be the goal every year. Like, if I wrote a card for Liz, like I'd have to be a message in it, and if she cries, it's a good message. I've done well. Hasn't happened for a while now. I think I've lost it.
Or at the very least, you're setting her bar very low. So then, like next year,
that's it. Give her a terrible one this year. So next year. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so next year, I mean, already next year is just queuing up to be busy, just doing things all the time, which is great. Like, I love going to concerts, I love music, I love shows, like, but it is like you do need a good week or two to sort of recover from it. I was saying to someone at work, they're going, are you doing anything this weekend? I think this was a couple of weeks ago. I said, oh yeah, we're going to see these people. Like, it was Halloween, actually. We're going to Halloween. But that sounds like a good, that sounds great. I'm like, does it? Yeah. It's going to take me a good week to recover. They're like, oh God. And I was like, no, not because I'm going to be drinking, but because I'm an introvert. I mean, like, I'm going to have to sit in the dark doing nothing for a good week.
No, I'm not drinking. I'm just doing stuff. I'm socializing.
Yeah, it is bizarre. Like that sort of thing. Just, it's so exhausting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm talking on a podcast. I imagine like 90% of the people that listen to podcasts are introverts because how else are you going to get conversation?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, because it's like like I was mentioning before with the overnights and listening to podcasts. I'll go into work early, and sometimes I'm scheduled several hours before we actually open. And so that's a good opportunity for me to go on autopilot. And I'm like, oh, I'm just doing freight, or I'm offloading a truck or whatever. And I've been listening to this podcast called We Hate Movies. And I mean, it's just what it says on the tin. It's, they talk about movies, and they actually like movies. It's just they kind of go into an analytical sort of, okay, well, this was a fun movie when we were kids, but here is everything that's wrong with it. And it's a funny type of show, and it's four guys, and they've been friends.
Have they done The Labyrinth?
I don't think so. I think that's possibly on their list of they won't touch on, because they do have a list of different things. They do have a Back to the Future episode, but it's part of their We Love Movies.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because one of the guys on the show, his name is Andrew, and it's his favorite movie, and so, like for the month of December, they go a little bit backwards, and every week they do a We Love Movies, so they'll talk about. But anyway, so it's just four guys talking, and it's one of those things where it's like I think I like that a lot, because I don't have to expend any energy to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, my contribution is the that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
or that exhale from the nose.
Yeah, exactly.
Just that one. Yeah.
That meme where it's like someone says something, or I read something funny on the phone, and then the image is of a nose that's replacing a rocket that's blasting off.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's it. Yeah, because I'm one of those people who, and it's, I said that weird, didn't I? I said people instead of people. Sorry.
I mean,
I said that weird. I just called myself
people. I'm one of those people.
I'm one of those people. I was doing like an American doing a British accent.
Yeah.
People. But it's The Labyrinth is one of those films. I feel if you watched it as a kid, you love it forever. If you didn't watch it as a kid, and the first time you watch it is when you're an adult, it's terrible. And because the other film like that is Legend. Like, my wife loves Legend, and she said, "Oh, you've never seen Legend? You have to watch Legend." And I watched it, and I was like, "I don't like it.
Yeah,
I really don't like it." And I think it falls into that category, whereas it's great when you're a kid, and if you watched it as a kid, it's still great forever, because you just got that nostalgia. But that's why when you said about that, I was like, Labyrinth is one of those films, but I think it's also one of those cult classics that you can't attack Labyrinth, because people will just come for you.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually went to see Labyrinth in the theaters a few months ago for their anniversary, and it was cool to see it in the theater. And my best friend, she's a huge fan of it, and so it was really cool to have that experience with her. But to your point, it's one of those where I saw it later in life, and it's one of those where I'm like, David Bowie, he's great. Codpiece is great. Yeah. The puppeteering is great, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just the stuff that I watch these days where I'm like, I need a very convoluted story in order to really appreciate what's going on. So when you've got a story with like bing, bang, boom, and you're introducing the Goblin King within the first 10 minutes of the movie, it's like, wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Like, the baby's crying and the girl is just like, I hate you, baby, and throws it out the window.
Yeah.
And then the Goblin King is just like, I could take the baby for you. And it's like, wait, this is happening way too fast. There's a lot of, you just resolved this way too quickly. Where are my like 12 monologues to really build it up to where, but, and then the song.
So why does he want the baby?
Yeah.
Why?
And it's like,
what is his motive?
Exactly.
Like,
what's the motivation?
Because he's the Goblin King. He wants the baby.
Oh, all right, fair enough. I mean, it's in the name. He's a Goblin King. So okay, well, but, and then the songs themselves, they're good, but they don't make sense. And it's like, does anything in this movie make sense? But I can see why it would be a classic. The Goonies is for me one of those movies where I didn't see it until a couple of years ago, and I'm just like, the kids are annoying. I mean, I have that whole the meme where it's just like, as you get older, you start to relate more to Squidward than SpongeBob.
Yes,
and you start to understand why. It's just like, I just want to sleep. It's just, I just want to play my oboe. Like, it's just, so just leave me alone. And, to an extent, SpongeBob.
That's a solid Squidward, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I've been practicing. I mean, that's how I can relate. It's just I feel more like Squidward, so I can, put on the voice. But yeah, I mean, I can see why people enjoy it's fun. And I liked, in fact, where the Goonies is concerned, I thought Josh Brolin was fantastic as the older brother in it. I mean, the bit where he steals the little girl's bike and then you see him riding this, I was falling out of my chair laughing. I was just like, this is funny as hell. And then I thought, one of the things from that movie is the Truffle Shuffle. And I'm like, is he going to do the Truffle Shuffle and save the day? No, it was just it was the thing at the beginning that they used to pick on the kid. And I'm just like, why is this one of the most iconic things? It's overweight kid, moving his belly around in order to be granted entrance to the kid's house. And it's and what's funny is that the character itself, what was his name? Chunk. He is he is one of the two most irritating characters in the movie. But the problem is that I'm like, if you removed him from the movie, there's no story.
Yeah.
Because everything, they find the treasure map because he's being an idiot. And then he's an idiot and he gets kidnapped. And then in order to save him, he's got to be an idiot. Everything happens around him being an idiot. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah. But, and it is that awful thing of films, and some films still do it now, but with the Chunk character, it's kind of like, why does he do the Truffle Shuffle? Because he's fat. Look, he's fat.
Yeah.
Everyone, look at this fat kid. And it's like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And films do still do it now. In Pitch Perfect and things like that, like Fat Amy, the character is called Fat Amy, and part of her comedy is the fact that she's overweight. But Rebel Wilson, well, I mean, she's not now. Rebel Wilson's not now, but she's genuinely a funny comedian. She's hilarious. But in the film, they she's fat. That's the comedy, and they do it a lot with, I think, Melissa McCarthy as well.
See, that was something. Yeah,
in Gilmore Girls. Fantastic character, Suki. She's brilliant. I love her. And then all of a sudden in Bridesmaid, it's look at this, butch, fat, overweight woman. Isn't it funny how she's overweight? And I hate that because
I do too.
They're genuinely funny people.
Yeah. I mean, Melissa McCarthy, she's great. And that was one of the things that was really when they announced that they were doing the Ghostbusters and with her. And I was like, I'll see it. But Melissa McCarthy, and she was one of the best things about the movie.
Yeah.
Because they didn't play, she actually got to act and she actually got to be a character, and her weight didn't, come into it and nothing. I mean, she was actually a character, and I was like, okay, she's funny. I want to watch that 9 Perfect Strangers. But if Balki Bartakamus isn't in it, then I don't want it. But but no, I just, I see that and I'm like, oh damn, like she looks like she's actually like acting. There's that other, I can't remember what it is, but it's, she's working, it's a like a Netflix or Hulu movie with her and Chris O'Dowd where they're, it's all about grief because they lose their baby, like she's pregnant, and then they and like that looks like. But I'm like, do I really want my heart broken today? Like,
especially with her. Like for me, she's always Suki from like Gilmore Girls, who I absolutely love. So if you put her in a serious role where something terrible happens to her, I'm like, no, don't do it to Suki. Don't do it to her.
Suki. No,
please. No. It's called The Starling.
The Starling. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just I see.
I'm not sure what
trailer
service
for that.
On, but yeah,
and I'm just
Netflix.
like,
okay,
Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. It's supposed to be sad. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
and Chris O'Dowd as well. He's great. I love him.
Oh yeah. So he, but I just, to your point, that I hate when they do that with characters and they do that with, actors and
yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway,
but I always worry that, back to the point of you have to have been a certain age or of a certain time to appreciate it. I feel that like I had that thought the other day about Back to the Future. Back to the Future is my absolute number one all-time favorite movie. Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing. And it was funny because I actually randomly quoted it, and not like the Great Scott or the 1.21 gigawatts. Yeah. I just ran through the whole thing where it's like, run for it, Marty.
Yeah.
Who do you think the Libyans? And
yeah.
My associate that I was just talking to myself, and my associate was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you really don't know? Like,
excuse me.
And then she was like, oh, I've never seen, but then again, she's like 20 years old. And I'm just like, I was graduating high school when you were born. Oh God.
I have that a lot at work now.
And so she's like, I've never seen Back to the Future. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it is one of the best movies. I mean, I'm biased, but I'm like, right. But it's one of the best movies out there. It's just so fun. And I mean, I've seen it a billion times. And even though I know and can quote the movie as, whatever, the bit where, the whole final sequence where they're trying to get everything connected and things start to go haywire. Like I get goosebumps. The music is pumping up.
Like, it's incredible.
Okay. And I'm like, oh, well, you're dealing with a movie with time travel.
I wonder if they're going to make it.
Exactly. I'm just like, is he going to make it this time? Oh my God. But, the whole pair up with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd is fantastic.
Yeah,
and, I mean,
perfect.
The DeLorean itself, it was a crap car in real life, but I mean, it's iconic. And it's like, of course that could be like, I cried when it was destroyed at the end of part 3. I was just like, no, but I mean, cause it's a character, but I had that thought where I was like, oh my God, is this one of those movies where it's like, you had to have been there in order to appreciate it. I mean, I've had friends who are like, no, is that the one where he fucks his mother? I'm like, no, God.
That's not the point.
Like, that's not the point.
He doesn't
like,
either, but it's not the point.
He doesn't, but it's like, he's very grossed out by it. Like, that's part of the comedy. He's very grossed out by it. And there's a weird innocence to it because it's like, here's this girl crushing on this kid, and the kid is just like, you're my mom. Like,
but she doesn't know, but it's like,
so she doesn't know it. But
that's part of the comedy, though, isn't it? But Calvin Klein. His name's Calvin Klein, isn't it? Because you have your name in your underwear.
It's written all over your underwear.
Yeah.
But so I'm like, because I look at movies that because what's funny is that Back to the Future, I have this whole thing with it. Apparently, it was the first movie that I ever went to. I was 2 when it came out, and my parents, my mom was pregnant with my brother at the time. And so, my mom really wanted to see it. She loved Michael J. Fox, loved Christopher Lloyd, like had the whole family ties and then the Taxi connection. So she wanted to see this movie, and she's like, but we've got a 2-year-old. So they went to the drive-in to see it.
Oh, wow.
But I don't remember, of course I don't remember it, but I'm like, that makes a lot of sense that, here was my first ever like movie experience.
It's out of driving, but you're sat in a car about a time traveling car as well. Like that's subconscious.
And then my dad, he liked recording movies off of HBO onto a VHS cassette.
Yeah.
And of course, he was the type of person who was like, well, if we put it on EP, we could put 3 movies on this and save the tape and whatever. And so we had Back to the Future along with, I think, like Wizard of Oz and Look Who's Talking on the same tape.
Amazing.
And so, quite a lineup there.
What a trilogy.
But exactly. So I always, I would, whenever I got an opportunity, I would always watch Back to the Future. And it was always at the point where it was the skateboard chase throughout, downtown 1955 Hill Valley. And at the point where, towards the very end of that scene where Biff has got Marty at the front of the car and he's going to ram him into the manure truck. I would always do this thing where I would like act out that little bit where I would stand on one side of my couch and then time it where the moment that Marty jumps over and runs through the car and then jumps over on the other side, I would jump onto my couch, run to the other side of the couch and jump off and then would go back and rewind it and do it like 10 more times. And it whenever I would watch it with my parents, that part of the tape was always like glitching and worn out
because you'd watched it so many times. And because it was an extended play as well, it's just completely destroyed.
Exactly. So just fun little things. And I've always, when it came out on DVD and Blu-ray, I got all the different special editions. I've got a steelbook, of course. So, but
it is like, I mean, we watched it with Chloe, and again, she was young when we watched it with her, and she likes it as well. Like, she's not into it like we are, but it's a film that she did enjoy watching. So, but yeah, I get when you say like with your associates where they're like 20 years old, are they going to appreciate it? Are they going to see it for what it is? Like, it's just a great bit of fun.
Well, it reminds me of...
I do want to watch it now. Now we've just been talking about it. So it's when you did the music, like that music cue, and I was just like, I want to watch it now.
Good old Silvestri. I mean, anytime I'm watching a movie, Van Helsing in particular, Silvestri did the music for it. And though it's 2 different genres and 2 different themes, like there are certain cues that Silvestri does, and I'm like, that's Avengers. When you listen to the Avengers soundtrack, he did the score for that, and it's like, and it worked. It was great when he did the score for Endgame, since they do the whole time travel thing, and so you hear the little twinklings and all that. It's like, okay, all right, you're busting out your Back to the Future chops. So I see what you did there.
That's the great thing about like film composers is you can really spot them. Like you know a John Williams score when you hear it. You know a Hans Zimmer score when you hear
Elfman.
it.
Jeez,
Danny Elfman is, there's no missing. It's like I think Danny Elfman. Like I know Danny Elfman. Like listening to like the Beetlejuice soundtrack, and you watch sort of films like Corpse Bride and Nightmare Before Christmas. So undoubtedly Danny Elfman, and then after you sort of get used to Danny Elfman, you happen to watch an episode of The Simpsons, and you go, hang on a second. That sounds familiar.
Well,
like, and then Tales from the Crypt Keeper as well, or Tales from the Crypt. Which one is it? It was the cartoon.
I think they have 2 different series. The Crypt Keeper was the cartoon. Yeah,
but and it's like, hang on, he did the Tales from the Crypt or the Tales from the Crypt Keeper theme as well. Like you hear that, and you're like, hang on a second, what's going on?
It's funny because I remember watching Scrooged for the first time.
Yeah,
and they're doing the whole. It's really, friggin', you're getting into the holiday season.
Yeah,
Bill
perfect.
Murray.
Yeah,
it's great. It's a great modern take on the Christmas Carol. But that opening theme, you're like, is he just like somehow speeding up the Edward Scissorhands theme? Like, what is
Edward Scissorhands? Edward Scissorhands is fantastic. Like the ice theme from Edward Scissorhands.
My god. The fact that that track was used in so many movie trailers for a period of time, especially
trailers, TV adverts. We did it on TV adverts as well, and it's just like, especially around, like you say, Christmas or the holidays. Like, the ice theme is just. I don't even know if it's called the ice theme, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's where he's carving the ice sculpture. Yeah. But everyone knows that.
I remember watching that movie for the first time. I cried my eyes out. I was just like, I got such an emotional reaction from it. Like, he's got scissors for hands, but he's all alone now. But he makes it snow and makes people happy, but he's all alone.
Yeah, it is so.
I was 10 at the time, so
yeah, it's such a. I mean, it's classic sort of Tim Burton, isn't it? It's beautiful, but it's sad, but it's
and it's weird, and it's
yeah. It's just like this suburban, like lovely. Every house is the same, you know, little
different pastel colors and
all these things. Everyone leaves their house at the same, like the Truman Show. Everyone pulls out their driveway at the same time, and then you got this guy in like a bondage outfit and giant fucking blades as hands.
Yep,
because like his creator couldn't finish him.
Yeah,
like, which is also sad.
Had a heart attack. Yeah.
It's such a bizarre concept, but
it's such a beautiful, like, and it's such a beautiful movie, and it's like a weird sort of fractured Peter Pan tale. It's
because he never grows up, does he? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I never looked at the Peter Pan side of it, but it's taking that sort of feeling of being the outcast and just like exaggerating it beyond recognition, isn't it?
It's one of those tropes that I absolutely love, and it's partially why I love Doctor Who so much, because one of the things that they do is, you know, here you take something that's outside of your norm and it's viewed as a monster, but it turns out to be the most pure thing in the entire, like it's much more innocent, and there's much more heart to it than like with Doctor Who, you know, humanity is the monster, not this creature that's scared and running around. And it takes that story and it's like, whew.
Yeah.
I love it.
I haven't been watching the new series. I haven't watched any of it yet. I haven't.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a 6-parter, and we've got part 4 coming out today. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm kicking myself. I'm like, should I have waited and just, you know, watched it
all in one go?
Or watched it all in one go.
I didn't realize it was all like one continuous story. That's really cool.
And it's brilliant because they're introducing things and they're kind of tying things up, but then they're just like adding more things. And they're like, I love this series.
Because it's Jodie's last series, isn't it?
It's her last series. Yeah. She's doing a couple more, and then I think they've actually filmed her regeneration scene. Yeah.
Not looking forward to that one.
Well, I mean, she's great. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you get so enamored with the actor playing the Doctor, and you know, for what it's worth, I'm one of those people who are just like, oh, writing shit, and it's like, I don't know why I did that accent, but it's like
it's usually the Brits that play the characters. It's one of those.
I'm American, and I don't like the writing on Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's
and I write Doctor Who, Dr. Who, because I'm an idiot. No,
it's one of those things like with Capaldi as well. Like I thought he was fantastic, but he didn't have the writing. He didn't have the strong stories. There were some episodes that were fantastic, like the introduction.
But he carried them.
Yeah, the child Davros, like when I messaged like that.
I look back on that and I was like, oh
yeah. But yeah, like that particular part, like there was some really, really great moments, and like with Jodie as well, there's some really great moments, but it's not the strongest writing. But I think everyone was spoiled with like the Tennant and the Matt Smith writing, like that particular era, that everyone wants that, but you can't keep doing that. Like you need to do different things.
And in fairness, what I think they're doing right now with, you know, not to go too far into spoiler territory, but have you is this the only series that you're not watched? Or
I did watch the
previous
first
series.
Yeah, I watched the previous. Yeah.
Okay, so you know all about her background, and we don't know what's going on, and where we find that she has a history that she doesn't even So I just I was floored. I was like, yes, like this is
more,
and it's more, and you know the fact that people are pissed and it's just like William Hartnell's always going to be my first Doctor. Is like, well, yeah, like
that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. This doesn't like, and I think, you know, a lot of people are pissed because it's just like, oh, it wasn't a man. That was the first. People will say that that's not the problem. That's the problem. They're just upset that, you know, and I mean, for me as a writer slash storyteller, I'm like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, this is part of why I love this series, is because it's so fluid and it's such an open-ended thing. Like, of course you have this time traveling alien. You could go anywhere, see anything, and
anything can happen.
It's just out there. I mean, anything can happen, even to the main character. It's like nothing is set in stone.
And like everyone was sort of like, there was the cap on how many regenerations the Doctor could have, and how are they going to get around it? And it's like, okay, we're going to do this to get around it. And people are like, no, you can't do that to get around it. There's only a certain, but obviously you want it just to stop. Then you want us to not carry on, like
exactly.
We have to do stuff. It's made up. It's
it's a continuous story, and I mean, how many people when you look at it from a real life perspective, it's like how many people, let's say for instance, someone who's adopted, like they think that their whole life is like from point A to point B, but then it turns out there's a point before point A that of this whole life that they weren't even aware of. And it's like, you gotta take that into account. And it's like, that's pretty much where we are with this story. It's like, it doesn't reduce what you knew. It just adds a little bit more to what you didn't. And
it's the fact that, like, William Hartnell was my first Doctor, but when we met the first Doctor, he was in his 40s, 50s, 60s. Like, what happened prior to that? Like, he had a life before stepping out of the TARDIS in London. Like, there was a life before that. Like, for William Hartnell,
he's an old man. Like, unless they have a Benjamin Button syndrome, which it looks like they are. I mean, Matt Smith, as the 11th Doctor, but then he turns into Capaldi, and but it's like, anyway. I mean, I just but
people complaining about getting more of the thing they love is just.
Exactly. It's being victimized by your own fandom.
And if you don't love it,
I'm going to
stop watching it.
And that's my thing. Like, and that's something that I never understand about people, where they get so, like, looking on Facebook, I follow different Doctor Who communities. I've had to stop following several of them because to me, it feels very trolly that some of the admins will post these things. It's like, what do you think is the most shit episode? It's like, at a certain point, the number of your members, you're gonna name every episode. In the series. For me, it's Fear Her, but we can go into that at another point. But no, I'm like, if you love something, then heighten it up. Like, talk about what you like about it. And it's one of those things where when I'm talking to people, I was talking to one of my associates at work, and I'm like, I have this conversation. I've had this conversation with my stepsister and her daughter, and it's Doctor Who's not necessarily their type of thing. I think Doctor Who is for everybody. You just have to. And
if you think it's not, then you're wrong. If you think you don't like it, you're wrong.
I mean, it's science. It's the law. But I just think you have to be introduced to it in the right angle. What do you like about the shows that you like? Oh, I like the storytelling, or I like that they do this aspect of it. I like history. I like, whatever. I like a message to, the story. Is like, okay. And so my stepsister, she and her daughter, they're more conservative thinking, and, the whole sci-fi thing doesn't really, but I'll talk to them about the heart of it, and I'll talk to them about the messages and this and that. And I think I'm like two very good conversations away from getting them into watching the show.
To watch it,
yeah. So I'm
if you're
really
getting them into the heart of it, which episode are you starting with? That's the key.
Yeah, I'll have to really think of that, because I think one, to give them an idea, I would probably the first episode that comes to mind is the Demons of the Punjab episode. Where it's all about love. It's all about the I can't remember what it's called, but the divide between the countries that separates them, and it's the whole story of Yaz and her grandmother, which I think it's a very sweet dynamic. So it gives you that family dynamic. It gives you the heart of, the government is changing, that sort of thing. But There are several others, but
I always one of the ones I always
think of at the moment.
One of the ones I always think back to, and it's possibly because Eccleston is my favourite still to this day. Father's Day, I think, is that's fantastic. It's because I think, like you say, how you introduce people to it, and it's one of those things. I saw a few. My mind is just dying. I saw a few David Tennant episodes. Thank you. There it is. Like prior to getting into it, and I was just, I don't see it. I don't understand why people like it. But then I went back to Eccleston, and I think like the first episode with the mannequins, and I think,
the Aughtons,
and I was just like, I watched it and I was like, right, they're not taking it too seriously. Like, this isn't supposed to be like totally serious. You can have fun with it. And I was like, I quite like, actually, I think I get this. And it was going through it, and then the story of it, like with Rose and her parents, and I'm just like, this is fantastic. Like, actually, I get. Although, like, the Father's Day episode is a bit silly with the demons and like flying around.
Oh yeah,
like, you gotta
have that
tongue-in-cheek,
corny, campy aspect.
You've got the heart. You've got actual story there. That it's like, okay, I know, I get this. But yeah, I think Father's Day is one of my favorite episodes. Obviously, Vincent goes without saying. It's just if you want to cry, watch this episode.
Oh my god! Well, that was something. It's Vincent and the Doctor is such a well done episode. I didn't realize that it was a suicide awareness episode until after the fact, because I tend to get my episodes of Doctor Who off the back of a lorry, and
you acquire them.
And so this was an advert from the actual BBC, and at the very end, it had like a very silent fade to black, and then it pops
suicide
up
prevention.
If you or anyone that you know is dealing with suicidal thoughts or whatever, please contact this number. And it's like I'm sorry, my American brain, it's a ridiculoly long number, 001456, whatever. That song from the IT Crowd, 99. But yeah, so
one of my favorite ones. There's a phone number from when I was a kid that I still remember. I think it was Live and Kicking. I'm looking at my wife, waiting for the recognition. It was that because you're saying it's that, and this is where the IT Crowd thing comes from, because it's always set to music to get you to remember. It's 0181 811 8181. That's it. 0181 811 8181. Like that. That's it. I mean, it's easy because it's like three numbers, but just repeated in a different pattern.
It sounds a lot better than the 5555 cards for kids, 1-800 cards for kids. Like,
this is the thing about American phone numbers that always bothers me. It's like you say, call 555 cards for kids. It's like, they're not numbers. What are you talking about? It wasn't until text messaging came in and I was like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not, they're the words. They're not phone numbers. Yeah.
What kind of weird sort of rudimentary keys are you using over there in the States?
Rotary phones we've got still. Which also have letters on them, but
but yeah, so I mean, I just remember watching that episode, and I was already floored by how fantastic it was, and then at the end, it's just like, suicide prevention. I was just like, damn, you slid that, because when you watch shows that have that message to it, it's very like in your face, where it's like Home Improvement. It's like Jonathan Taylor Thomas's character gets dumped and he's like, I'm going to kill myself. And then you got Tim Allen who's like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh my
Come
God,
build a car with me. You'll feel better.
Yeah. And then somehow like, Tim Taylor blows himself up and it's like, and it's just like, ha ha ha, suicide awareness. And it's like, okay. And then you get the little kitschy, like piano, very heartfelt now. Getting dumped happens sometimes. I mean, your father, he was dumped 12 times before someone finally decided to settle with him. And you get the like that. Okay, now here's the opportunity for us to have feels in case we didn't just automatically. But
they get a giant fish, write suicide and just slap you with it. Like that's how they do it, isn't it? In shows like that.
wasn't that like a Monty Python sketch at some point? It's just like,
probably, yeah.
Didn't they? Didn't they have one towards the very end? You know, the latter years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, very clever. Like you got me with, you know, the story and all that. But yeah. I watched. I'm going back and doing a Doctor Who rewatch, and so to your point, Father's Day. Yeah. Well, what I always love to do is, you know, the new episodes, and then knowing what I know now, see how the rest of the story fits with it.
Yeah.
And I've got a few based off of this particular series. I've got a few things where I'm like, huh. I now look at it in a different way, because now I'm like, I wonder if the Doctor had something to do with this, but doesn't know about it, or
I wonder what was the Doctor's involvement. That's something they've always done really well, where they kind of they do retroactively fit points into the story. They go, so this happened in that episode like 5 years ago. How can we make that fit with what we're doing? Like the way, I mean, timey-wimey, isn't it? It's the way they do that. It's so clever. And like to
I remember,
credit, like you say, you go back and rewatch and you go, I see what they've done.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and again, it's just, you know, if I'm ever just exhausted and I don't really want to expend any energy on trying to learn something new, I'm just like, well, this is a comfort show. This is, you know, I know what's going to happen. I mean, but even so, Father's Day, I still teared up, you know, when Pete is, you know, he realizes what's happening, and, you know, he has that moment of, here he is to do something with his life, and he sacrifices it. And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then you get back to the story of, you know, when Rose is like 8 years old, and Jackie's telling her about the day that her father died. And then you find out, find out, oh, there was this blonde lady who was with him. And it's like, that was Rose. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But
it's great. It's so good.
Great. So like I say, you know, if you're not watching Doctor Who, you're missing out. I mean, if you're like, oh, it's camp, it's just like, but it's fun. I mean, that's why I love going back and watching like the Tom Baker stuff. I'm like, it's campy as hell, but at the time, I mean, the stories are great.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the way that Robot, which was Tom Baker's first series, serial rather, you know, the whole thing is about a artificial intelligence that takes on sentience, and you know, it you know, what is my purpose? You know, to do what I, you know, that doesn't correct. Like it's very cheesy, but I mean, my favorite bit in that is like, you get, you know, the beginning of the serial where the robot is stealing classified, you know, information from different, you know, strongholds, and you've got this guard who's like asleep, and you see these, you know, it's very cheaply made, but you see these different bins that have, you know, classified, blah, blah, blah. And then he hears this robot coming. And so he puts this bar on the door, and then the bar is obviously styrofoam, and it gets broken open. And then the guard goes over to the phone, and you see the shadow of this claw come into and he moves his neck, like he's moving around so that the claw can grab his neck. I'm like, oh, this is great. I love it.
Yeah.
You do what you got to do.
It is like old college bloody films. It's like real. Yeah. It's good.
You figure out So, but that's been kind of I decided to go back and rewatch that. Friday, so much stuff came out, like on Netflix and like Amazon Prime. Like I haven't even started watching Wheel of Time yet. I'm
tempted by that for sure.
I read the first book a few years ago, and I don't remember anything from it. But I have some friends who are really big into the Wheel of Time series, and I've been hearing very mixed things from it, because it's one of those things where it's like you run the risk of it being utter crap.
Yes.
It's something that people love, so let's shit on it. Let's you know.
One of the things I saw, which is kind of why I'm only half tempted by it. I don't know the story. I haven't read any of the books, but I saw an article, and it basically just said that it's forgettable, which is a bit like, oh, that's a shame.
Well, I look at it and I'm just
but
like,
it depends who said that, doesn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, like what was another very popular book series that had a television series that ended up in like utter dog shit. And it's like, ooh, Game of Thrones. And so I really liked it at the beginning, but
it was incredible.
And so I'm like,
up to a point.
Yeah, I love the meme of the drawing of the horse, and it's like season 1, season 2, and you've got a very perfect like representation of a horse, and then season 5 through 8, and it's just like crappy line drawings. But yeah, so you run that risk. I've got the first 3 books in hardback in my collection, so I'm like, do I watch the series and then go and read the books, and and because I'm gonna like the books a lot more. So there's that, and then I started watching Cowboy Bebop, the live action version. I've never watched the anime,
no, I haven't,
which I think is probably the best way to go about it, because people who are like avid fans of the anime are like, the live action is shit. It's like, okay, or like it doesn't get the tone right or whatever. I am, yeah. I mean, and so in fact, it's funny because watching the live action, I'm now curious about the anime. I mean, and John Cho, he's very charismatic and he's very charming and so it's like, and it's a fun show in certain aspects. It starts off a little slow. I mean, but then about episode 4 or 5, it really picks up.
Yeah, I watched.
So Tom isn't going to want to watch it.
No. If you've got 5 episodes to get into it, I nice. I watched the first episode of the Cowboy Bebop anime. I was trying to find something new to watch, so I thought, all right, I watched the first episode, and I was like, "What is this? I don't know what this is. It's so bizarre. It's so weird." But I feel like, you need a couple of episodes to go in and go, "Oh, I get what you're doing now." And it's like WandaVision. Like, you watch the first episode of WandaVision, you're like, "What is this?" You watch the second episode, you're like, "What is it?" Oh, and then you get into it. Yeah. But and that ended up probably still being my favorite of the Netflix series far, like, for sure. Like, just what they did with it.
That was a very strong opening act. Yeah.
Ridiculously good. But Hawkeye's on Wednesday, which I'm looking forward to. Really looking forward to
that. That looks like it's going to be good.
Yeah,
that looks like it's going to be good.
But yeah, I've not really been watching much on Netflix. I mean, we watched the second season of Lock and Key, which is great. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, and I still shudder every time the key goes in the back of the neck.
Oh yeah, or in the
it's just the noise of it going in.
You can feel it.
Yeah. But no, that series is so good. It's so good. And it got me to, like, I've got on my new iPad. I got did you know I have one? I haven't mentioned it. I have
one too.
Yeah. I've got Comixology on there, and I've got years ago I brought the first volume of Lock and Key. And I actually got around to reading it on the iPad, and it's great looking, like, how they've adapted it, how it's worked. The characters look are totally different, but like ridiculously different. But yeah, it's great. I do want the second volume, but it's like I need to pace myself because money. It's
really good. It's really good. In fact, a friend of mine from work, she got the whole series and had already had the first book, so she gave me the first book. She's like, "You like Joe Hill?
Yeah.
And I think this is right up your alley. So here, you can have this, and if you like it, you can keep it." I'm like, "Cool." So I read it, and I was just like, "Hey, can I borrow the rest of the series?" And I read it, and I was like, "This is amazing. It's really good." I mean, and it's definitely, you can tell it's a creation of the progeny of Stephen King.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, just all it's.
I mean,
what's really cool,
the protagonists are kids.
Yeah,
like that. If that's not Stephen King, I don't know what is.
Oh, absolutely. What's really cool though is that it's also tied into very loosely into the Stephen King universe, and because if you've ever watched, because Joe Hill wrote NOS 4A2, which is also a TV show, which is really good. I highly recommend it. But there is a bit in both the book and maybe the first or second episode of NOS 4A2 where you look at the map And it's a normal map, but then it turns into the map of like all the supernatural type of areas, and you see Lockhart Keyhole, and then you see Pennywise Circus on the map.
Oh wow!
Along with like Christmas Land, and I'm like, that's pretty cool that it's tied into that universe as well. I love stuff like that, but it's such a, I mean, because the thing is it's very twisted. It's got a darkness to it, but it's also funny as hell in certain places where you know they're like, why are we running? And it's like, because of this giant spider that's chasing us. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's how everything works.
That giant spider, like that whole, so clever, so good.
And then
I do love
it was good.
And the fact that, you know, it's like let's make this key. I'm going to save this character that everyone really, really loves and wants to survive. And it's like, oh shit, it just killed her, like in the most horrific way possible. I'm like, whoa.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, just gone. Wait,
yeah.
What?
She's saved. Wait, what's happening here?
Yeah.
What's going on? She's having a fit. What's happening?
Yeah. Oh, cool. Ooh. She's gone. Yeah. Yes, it's so incredible, and even like I can't remember the character's name now, but it's the history teacher's daughter, where the sort of, I can't remember what it is, but she's kind of like, Dad, they're called the Locks and they live in Key House.
Really, like, come on,
like, well, you, of course, like, and it's just like that is sort of a bit. That's just so funny because I think even part of the, like at the start when we started watching the second season, and I kind of went, it's a bit on the nose, isn't it? Like the Locks are living at Key House, and then they point it out. I'm like, oh, that's fine then. If they know what they're doing, that's cool.
if they can acknowledge it in the piece itself,
yeah, that's fine. That's
fine.
Great. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they called their house Key House because they're called the Locks. Like, you know, you might do that. It's such a great idea, and I do love the fact that they're kind of like, oh, the keys sort of call to you when you need them. So it's like you can just expand, you can just go, you just keep going, and it's like that's great. And they brought flight into it as well, which is so good.
Yeah. So my God, when they did that, I was like, okay, that's cool.
I saw the key with the wings, really, and I was like, oh, they're gonna fly.
What I find really funny, because when I first started watching the show, I'm like, why does the girl look familiar? And she was actually Mary Galel in the Rings of Akaten episode of Doctor Who.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, why does this girl look familiar? I mean, she's a lot older now, but why does she look familiar? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know her.
All right.
Yeah. All right. There are some great series, but I mean, I haven't watched all of Squid Game yet. I've watched the first episode.
I can't bring myself to watch that just yet. I think there's, for me, I mean, whenever something is overly hyped, I just lose any kind of interest in it because I'm like, I'm not a fucking sheep. That'd be bad. And so,
which Andrew, come on. The puns. I'm on that boat as well. It's kind of it's hyped up quite a lot. Everyone's watched it. Do I want to watch it? And you know, Tom's the same as well. You know, he got into Game of Thrones probably at the wrong point. You know, he went back and started watching them, but it is what it is. But Squid Game, it's one that my daughter watched and she really liked it, and I was like, I'll give it a go. And I'm watching it like subtitled because I'm not watching it dubbed because that's just no,
because I've heard the translations are
it was awful,
and also like the voices that they get are just,
it defaulted to like English language with like no subtitles, just the dubbed version, and it's just like it's. I don't want to say so American, but it is that it's that dub where like it's a real heavy, obvious American accent, and they're not even trying.
Right, you get someone with a very Texas accent.
I was quite surprised.
What are we doing here with this Squid Game?
Yeah, when I was a kid, we used to play Squid Games. Okay. Well.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, you're 12 years old. Like,
but little girl. I was really, really surprised how much exposition there actually was. Like I was expecting it just to be like a gore fest, but there is a real solid sort of story, like in there, and it's done really well. But yeah, I was also surprised at how brutal it was when it actually got into it. I was like, whoa,
yeah,
mad. But yeah, it's great, and I am looking forward to watching it. I've also started watching Arcane, the League of Legends.
Yeah, I've seen a
show.
lot of really good things about that.
It's
and
fantastic.
I've heard that they just released the season finale or series finale.
Yeah, they were doing 3
with
episodes at a time. So they released it in like 3 or 4 blocks of 3 episodes. So yeah, I think I'm like 3 episodes into that. It's great. It's so good.
And I heard if you're into League of Legends, that it's very true and very,
I don't know. I'm not into League of Legends.
Very loyal to to that particular game or whatever, like the lore behind it.
Yeah, and I'm not into League of Legends, so I don't know, but and I'm really enjoying it. It's really good. It's just when I saw the trailer and I was like, that looks interesting. I might give that a go. And I did, and I'm like, this is really good. I'm glad I gave it a go.
This was a good decision. I'm happy for me.
Let's go.
Well done, me.
Yeah. So no, there's lots of stuff to watch at the minute. Lots of stuff. So I'm just going to add that onto the pile of things I'm doing, because why not?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I need the escape at times.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think how long? Yeah. I think if we call this, we can carry on the conversation over on the Patreon feed, I suppose.
Sounds good.
So if you guys, I mean, what can we talk about? We can talk about like Spider-Man trailer and things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
And get into spoilery bits because I watched Shang-Chi as well. So we can get into that, I suppose. We talk about that over on Patreon. So if you want to hear the conversation carrying on, we'll see you over there. But for now, I have been Ant.
I've been Andrew.
Bye.